The entity we have been calling 3i Atlas just transmitted something 47 minutes ago that has left every single stargazer I know sitting in complete stillness, staring at information they simply cannot comprehend. Before we commence this conversation, I need you to do something minor for me. Comment your city name below and tell me truthfully, have you observed anything genuinely unusual in the night sky over the past 6 weeks? Anything whatsoever? NASA has been quietly gathering these accounts, and what we are witnessing suggests this certainly is not limited to one area. Your sighting might be the specific element that completes a mystery we are only now starting to grasp. I have spent my whole career examining the fabric of space-time, the mathematics that govern existence itself, and the equations that forecast the birth and death of stars. I have stood before blackboards covered in symbols that describe the curvature of space, the dance of subatomic particles, and the elegant architecture of 11-dimensional universes. But nothing, and I genuinely mean nothing, in my decades of theoretical physics prepared me for what 3 Atlas has disclosed. When this entity was first detected approaching our solar system in early 2024, we handled it as we handle all interstellar visitors with measured scientific interest. It was the 3rd interstellar entity we had confirmed. Following the now famous Oumuamua and Borisov, we catalogued its path, analyzed its spectral signature, and calculated its speed. The figures were unusual, but not necessarily concerning. It was moving at approximately 290,000 km/h relative to the Sun, rapid, but well, within anticipated parameters for an entity originating from beyond our cosmic neighborhood. But then something occurred that violated every single assumption we had formed. Approximately 3 astronomical units from Jupiter, that is roughly 450 million kilometers, 3i Atlas began to decelerate, not progressively and not in response to any gravitational influence we could identify. It simply began to reduce speed as if something inside it had made a conscious choice. You have to comprehend what this signifies. Entities in space do not just choose to reduce speed. They follow paths determined by gravity, momentum, and the fundamental laws of motion that Newton described centuries ago. When an asteroid travels through space, it continues traveling at a constant speed unless acted upon by an external force. This is elementary physics. This is the foundation of everything we understand about celestial mechanics. 3i Atlas violated that foundation entirely. I recall the emergency teleconference 3 weeks ago involving astrophysicists from JPL, ESA, and observatories across 6 continents. All of us were connected on a secured channel at 2 in the morning. The lead stargazer from the Atacama Large Millimeter Array was the first to speak, and her voice was trembling. The entity is now maintaining a fixed position relative to Jupiter, she said. It is not orbiting. It is not passing by. It is holding station. The stillness that followed was the kind of stillness you sense in your chest, the kind that makes you aware of your own heartbeat because entities in space do not hold station. Satellites hold station because we built them with thrusters and guidance systems and AI that make constant micro-adjustments. But 3i Atlas, according to every measurement we had taken, was supposed to be a chunk of primordial ice and rock, a cosmic wanderer that had traveled through the void between stars for millions of years. Then the signal arrived. It was not radio waves, it was not electromagnetic radiation in any spectrum we typically monitor. What 3i Atlas transmitted was a gravitational wave pulse, a ripple in the very fabric of space-time itself. The LIGO detectors picked it up first, followed by Virgo in Italy and Kagra in Japan. The pattern was unmistakable, structured, repeating, and incredibly information-dense. This was not the chaotic gravitational wave signature of colliding black holes or merging neutron stars. This was intentional. This was engineered. This was a communication. I have been requested to remain silent about the contents of that transmission. There are protocols, you comprehend, for handling discoveries of this magnitude. The Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space has procedures. The International Academy of Astronautics has protocols. But as I sit here in my study looking at the decoded information on my screen, I realize that some truths are too significant to be contained by bureaucracy. Some revelations belong to our species as a whole. What 3 Atlas transmitted was a caution. The gravitational wave pattern, when converted into a visualizable format, revealed a 3-dimensional chart, not of our solar system, not even of our galaxy. What we are witnessing is a chart of galactic superclusters, hundreds of billions of galaxies organized into structures spanning billions of light years. And overlaid on this cosmic chart are markers, boundaries, and regions of space designated in a way that can only be described as quarantine zones. Earth sits directly inside one of these zones. Let me clarify what this signifies using a framework you will comprehend. Imagine you are a bacterial cell in a petri dish in a laboratory. You have no concept of the laboratory, no awareness of the scientists observing you, and no understanding that your entire universe, the nutrient-rich agar you are swimming through, is a carefully controlled experiment. Now imagine one day a communication appears in your petri dish, a chemical gradient you can sense, spelling out a simple truth. You are being observed. Do not attempt to leave your designated area. That is what 3i Atlas has told us. The boundaries marked on this galactic chart correspond to regions of space approximately 50,000 light-years in radius. Earth, our Sun, and roughly 200 billion other stars in our section of the Milky Way fall within one of these designated zones. The boundaries themselves appear to be maintained by entities, structures positioned at regular intervals along the perimeter. When I say structures, I am not talking about space stations or satellites. The energy signatures suggest constructions on a scale we have never conceived. We are talking about engineered entities with masses equivalent to small moons, holding positions in deep space far from any gravitational anchor. These are not natural phenomena, these are technological artifacts, and they have been there maintaining this cosmic quarantine for a duration we are only beginning to calculate. The isotope decay analysis of the gravitational wave pattern itself suggests this quarantine system has been active for at least 2.7 million years. Let that register. While our ancestors were learning to use stone tools, this galactic infrastructure was already ancient, already operational, already keeping us contained. But here is what genuinely terrifies me, what keeps me awake at night, staring at the ceiling. The quarantine is failing. 3i Atlas is not a naturally occurring interstellar entity. It is a maintenance probe, a repair vessel, something sent to address a malfunction in the quarantine system near Jupiter. The gravitational wave communication was not directed at us. It was a status report transmitted back to whatever civilization or intelligence manages this cosmic infrastructure. And in that report, buried in the mathematical patterns we have only partially decoded, is a timestamp. The quarantine boundary near Jupiter has been compromised for approximately 16 years. I keep thinking about that date, 2009, what occurred in 2009. We launched the Kepler Space Telescope, beginning humanity's systematic search for exoplanets. We started finding Earth-like worlds orbiting distant stars. We began for the first time in our history to seriously contemplate our position in a universe teeming with potential life. Was that a coincidence, or did our technological adolescence trigger something? Did we press up against the bars of our cage just hard enough for someone to notice? The second part of the communication is even more disturbing. Embedded within the gravitational wave pattern is what our most advanced AI systems have identified as a decision tree. A computational structure representing a set of conditions and responses, if X, then Y, if A, then B. The variables in this decision tree correspond to observable characteristics of civilizations: energy consumption, technological signatures, radio emissions, nuclear detonations, artificial satellite distribution, and atmospheric composition changes. We are being evaluated, and the thresholds defined in this decision tree, we crossed 3 of them in the last decade alone. The rapid acceleration of artificial intelligence, the characterization of thousands of exoplanets, and most significantly, recent advances in quantum computing and entanglement. Technologies that could potentially allow us to breach the quarantine through means other than physical spacecraft. Every species that reaches a certain level of technological sophistication faces a moment of reckoning. We call it the great filter in cosmic evolutionary theory. It is the barrier that explains the Fermi paradox. If the universe is so vast and so old, why have we not detected obvious signs of alien civilizations? The answer, we have always theorized, is that something prevents most intelligent species from advancing beyond a certain point: self-destruction through nuclear war, environmental collapse, or AI that turns against its creators. But what if the great filter isn't something we do to ourselves? What if it is something that is done to us? I have spoken with evolutionary biologists who study convergent evolution, the way different species independently develop similar traits in response to similar environmental pressures. Intelligence, tool use, and social cooperation emerge again and again because they provide survival advantages. Now, extend that logic to the cosmos. Where are the others? They are in quarantine zones just like us. The chart transmitted by 3 Atlas shows approximately 400,000 of these designated regions across the observable universe. The boundaries are maintained not to protect us, but to protect something else out there beyond the quarantine zones. Something that has decided that young, aggressive species like humanity pose a risk. A risk to what? That is the inquiry that haunts me. Perhaps we are too violent with a history written in blood. Maybe they see only danger, a cosmic contamination that must be contained until we either destroy ourselves or evolve into something less threatening. Or perhaps it is simpler. Perhaps we are livestock. Perhaps consciousness itself is a resource that is being managed by intelligences so far beyond our comprehension that we cannot even perceive their motivations. The quarantine isn't to protect the galaxy from us. It is to protect the crop, to keep us isolated until we reach some kind of cosmic maturity or threshold of awareness that makes us useful for purposes we cannot begin to imagine. The rift that is open near Jupiter is approximately 740 kilometers in diameter and growing at a rate of 3.2 kilometers per day. Our instruments detect spatial anomalies, regions where space-time appears to be folded or twisted in ways that should not be possible according to general relativity. Light passing through the region experiences gravitational lensing that does not match any natural phenomena. And there is something else. Quantum vacuum fluctuations near the rift are showing structured patterns at the Planck scale. Something is using the quantum foam of space-time as a computational substrate. Reality itself is thinking near that rift. 3 days ago, the International Space Station repositioned its orbit. The real reason, the astronauts reported seeing something through the cupola module, a shimmer, a distortion in the direction of Jupiter, visible to the naked eye. They described it as looking like heat waves rising from asphalt on a summer day, except it is in the vacuum of space and it is spreading. The Chinese space station Tiangong has gone completely silent on the subject, but their orbital maneuvers suggest they are tracking something, moving to keep specific observation angles on the Jupiter region. Everyone with assets in space is watching, everyone is calculating, everyone is preparing for scenarios they hope will never materialize. What occurs when the rift becomes large enough? What emerges? I think about consciousness often these days. In quantum mechanics, the act of observation collapses the wave function. Consciousness literally shapes reality. But what if the universe requires observers to exist? If that is true, then every conscious species is a vital node in a universal computational network. The quarantine makes sense here. Not containment of a threat, but isolation of an element that is not yet synchronized with the network. We are running incompatible software until we achieve a specific threshold of ethical or conscious development. We remain disconnected, alone, watching from inside our cosmic petri dish. The communication from 3 Atlas contained one final element, a countdown, a temporal marker indicating an event scheduled to occur in approximately 214 days from now. What occurs then? The mathematics suggests a convergence. Is it when they decide whether humanity gets to join the galactic community? Or is it when the quarantine protocols change? I look at my granddaughter sometimes and wonder what world she will inherit. Will she see the day when humanity steps beyond our cosmic cage? Or will that day bring something darker, a reset, a pruning? I have spent my career pursuing the unified theory that explains everything. But looking at the information from 3 Atlas, I realize we have been asking the wrong inquiry. It is not what is the universe that matters, it is who is the universe and what does it want from us. The rift near Jupiter continues to grow. 3 Atlas continues its repairs or its preparations in the darkness between worlds, and we continue watching, measuring, and hoping that when the moment arrives, we will be ready. But how do you prepare for a revelation that might rewrite everything we think we understand about existence? I want you to think about something tonight. When you look up at the stars, every photon of starlight that reaches your eyes has traveled for years across the void. You are, in a very literal sense, made of star stuff. As my colleague Carl Sagan used to say, you are a way for the cosmos to know itself. But what if that is literally true? We are how the universe experiences itself, and the quarantine exists because we are not yet ready to understand what the universe has experienced everywhere else. Follow this channel as we work to decode the remaining portions of the 3I Atlas transmission. This is not just a curiosity. This is first contact with the infrastructure of galactic civilization itself. The rift grows 3.2 kilometers larger every single day in your city. Wherever you are right now, something might be watching the sky with you. The inquiry isn't whether we are alone anymore. The inquiry is, when we finally meet everyone else, will they see us as children ready to grow up or as a problem that needs to be solved? Comment below. Do you think humanity is genuinely ready for what lies beyond the quarantine? Because the clock is ticking and the mathematics of the countdown are absolute. The expanding nature of the rift suggests that the break in the quarantine is not a physical hole, but a phased transition of the vacuum state itself. Physicists at CERN and the Perimeter Institute have noted that the fine structure constant in the vicinity of Jupiter has begun to oscillate by a factor of 10 to the minus 9. While this may seem like a microscopic variance, it indicates that the fundamental laws of physics are being rewritten in a localized bubble of space. If the quarantine fails entirely, the laws that govern our reality, the speed of light, the strength of gravity, the stability of the atom, could be overwritten by the external parameters of the greater galaxy. We are effectively living in a protected legacy operating system, and the update is arriving whether we are compatible or not. In the last 48 hours, deep space probes like Voyager 1 and 2, despite their aging hardware, have begun sending back bursts of high-frequency information that correspond to the 3I signal. They are outside the inner heliosphere, right on the edge of the Petri dish wall. They are reporting that the interstellar medium is not a vacuum, but is saturated with dark information. A dense network of non-baryonic matter that acts as a carrier for the galactic consciousness. This confirms the quarantine's purpose. It acts as a filter to keep this dark information from overwhelming our primitive neural architectures. If the rift continues to expand, our brains may soon be exposed to a torrent of cosmic information that we simply lack the sensory organs to process. This could lead to a global cognitive shift or a total collapse of human sanity as we understand it. The geopolitical response has been frantic yet hushed. In the basement of the UN building in New York, a group known as the Sentinel Council has been formed, consisting of the world's top 10 physicists and 3 high-ranking religious leaders. They are debating the theological scientific convergence, the idea that what we call God or higher power is actually the administrative layer of the galactic quarantine. If 3I Atlas is a repair drone, it is essentially a divine technician sent to fix a leak in heaven's floor. The countdown is not just for a scientific event. It is for a spiritual reckoning. We are being forced to acknowledge that our religions were just metaphors for a reality that is far more mechanical and structured than we ever dared to imagine. Furthermore, the information indicates that the markers on the galactic chart are not static. They are moving in a precise choreography that matches the movement of the great attractor. This suggests that the quarantine zones are part of a larger project involving the reorganization of matter across the Laniakea supercluster. We are not just a small experiment, we are part of a multi-billion-year construction project. The repair taking place near Jupiter might involve a recalibration of Earth's orbital resonance. This could explain the strange weather patterns and geological shifts we've seen over the last decade. The technicians are adjusting our environment to ensure we don't perish before the evaluation is complete. We are being pampered and pruned simultaneously like prize-winning roses in a garden that is about to be sold. As we move closer to the 214-day mark, the decision tree continues to unfold in our simulations. One of the most terrifying branches of this tree involves the resource recovery protocol. If humanity is deemed a failure, if we do not pass the threshold of ethical synchronization, the quarantine might not just stay up, it might be cleaned. This is the cosmic equivalent of bleaching a petri dish to start a new experiment. We see this pattern in the fossil record, sudden violent mass extinctions that clear the stage for new life. Was the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs a cleaning event because they lacked the capacity for higher level consciousness? If so, our current climate and nuclear crisis might not be things we fix ourselves, but the criteria by which we are either saved or erased. I have spent my life looking for the God equation, the single mathematical string that binds the universe together. I believe I have found it, but it wasn't what I expected. The equation isn't a description of matter, it's an access code. It's a key to the quarantine wall, and 3i Atlas is telling us that the lock is being changed. We have 214 days to prove that we deserve the new key. This requires a level of global cooperation that humanity has never achieved. We must stop our petty territorial disputes and realize that the only territory that matters is our shared status as conscious observers. If we fail to unify now, we are essentially signing our own extinction warrant in the eyes of the administrators. To those of you watching this, I urge you to look deeper into the history of your own cultures. Look for the star people stories, the sky gods, and the return prophecies. They all point to this moment. We are the generation that gets to see the curtain pulled back. It is a terrifying privilege. The shimmer near Jupiter is not a threat. It is an invitation to witness the truth. Whether we accept that truth with grace or fear will determine our fate. I will continue to provide updates as the LIGO and Virgo arrays provide more information. The silence is over. The universe is speaking, and its voice is written in the very gravity that holds you to your chair. Listen carefully, for the countdown is already halfway finished, and the rift is hungry for our response.